we can be drawn into the family of Lord Chaitanya. It's so wonderful. All problems are resolved when we put the holy name or Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the center. So that's what Kirtan's all about, not putting ourselves in the center. So anyway, with no further ado, we will proceed with a little chanting, and then we'll try to make a little presentation on the topics which we've been requested to share a little bit today. And last night, discussion was there and it was concluded. First we thought Bhadahari Prabhu would be giving class, but he was indicating he might be a little tired, but we see he's as fresh as a daisy, as fresh as this morning. And but somehow or another I barged him out the way, physically almost, to take the role of, put myself in the center and sit here and speak a little bit about this topic. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabala Labha Girivardhari Gopi Janabala Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jayam Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Pariraj Acharya Ashtotara Satasha A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Kuta Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Prem Se Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhana ki, Sri Vrindavan Dham ki, Shri Mayapur Dham ki, Ganga Maya ki, Yamuna Maya ki, Tulasi Deva ki, Bhakti Deva ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Lord Chaitanya's Harinam Sankirtanam ki, Vihat Madanga ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Shri Sri Gaurnitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Madhava ki, the Srila Prabhupada's Incorporation of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled Vaishnavas, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachardini Nirvasesha Sanyavadi Pastachardi Shatani Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Litam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Shvayam Upagadamayam Vedati Sva Vedantikam Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Well, Hare Krishna. Pardon? You have to speak louder.
Translation for the French, the class.
Yes.
Some ladies don't speak English.
Yes.
And can put the group together.
Pardon?
Can put a group together.
Put a group together.
For translation.
That's a good idea. Good idea. We're going to put a group together. Anyone play guitar? Good. Okay, we're off to a good start. We have a group. Put a group together, is it what you said? Krishna Kirtan group. So devotees who need a French translation, somebody will have to say this in French, otherwise they won't know what I'm saying, can gather together in a group, I believe, that's what I've been told, and they will receive a French translation. So can somebody ask and arrange this? It's important. Mice. And who will translate? Chitralila's here? No. Dhananjaya Prabhu's here. So, well, there's several translators are here. So please organize this quickly. We haven't got time to debate. Somebody who's fit, able, and willing to do it. And it should be done now. Dhananjaya has been requested. I don't know if his health is up to it. Is your health strong enough? Hare Krishna. Any other language required? What about Swiss? You can all understand English. You need German? You okay with English, everyone? English is okay? I'm really sorry. I was blessed or cursed to be born in England. We speak a different language. You Maybe you can go on a Google Translator or something. I don't know what you've got. So as you can see on the screen, there's one of the all-famous pictures of Srila Prabhupada. I just managed to grab this at the last minute from I've got a very long PowerPoint presentation on the incorporation of ISKCON, which we presented dozens and dozens of times, maybe not here, but it would take pretty much up to midday to go through that. So I've just pulled a few things out of it, added and revised a little bit, and tried to put something in a little format which might fit today's subject matter specifically. The incorporation of ISKCON is not just an event that took place on July the 6th, 1966. Well, the official incorporation was on the 13th of July, when it was officially, let's say, registered by the lawyer. But on the 6th of July, it may seem like that to the world in general, but ISKCON is not a little movement that has suddenly been created in 1966 by one representative of the Parampara. It is the eternal, you could say, international. Well, we use the word international. We could say universal, or we could say all-pervasive society for Krishna consciousness. It's the eternal constitutional nature of everything that exists, in one sense, Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada, according to time, place, and circumstances, is, we can say, bringing this into this little tiny world that we're in, giving it a title, interesting, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So it's easy for the translator, who happens to be Harini. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Harini, who's with us here in New Mayapur. She's been in London Temple for the last 2 years, and now with all of her experience there, we hope she'll be able to share with that here in France. So here we see Srila Prabhupada at the Rath Yatra Festival. Maybe Badahari Prabhu, you were there that year. Is it 74, isn't it? Or 75, I'm not sure.
San Francisco?
Yeah, San Francisco. I think it's 74, but maybe 75, one of those years. And this picture is really a sign of, we could say, that spirit of Prabhupada, with his arms raised high in the air. And I was talking the other day, who was Burijan Prabhu, was it? I think I was talking, no, it was Keshava Bharati Maharaj. I was talking with a few days ago, and he was there. And he was at the back. He was organizing with Vaisheshika Prabhu, they were both in San Francisco at the time, the book table. They were right at the back, and they said when Prabhupada put his hands up like this, about 5,000 people raised their hand in between them and Prabhupada. Mostly called hippies. You know what hippies are? You've heard of the word hippie? Historical word, isn't it? At least in our present age. Most of them were what were called hippies. They all spontaneously put their arms up. It was like a sea of raised arms between them and Srila Prabhupada. He brought this unity to everyone off the bodily platform. Huh? And it's a very powerful remembrance and picture of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada wrote earlier than this Rath Yatra, but its principles always there, to Tamal Krishna Maharaj in 1972. We are trying to unify the whole population of this globe by this cultural movement. Prabhupada described this as a cultural revolution, isn't it? And that's not just Bharatanatyam dance, by the way. It's more than that. That's a little part of it. We sometimes think of culture in terms of some entertainment almost, a particular dress. It's much, much deeper. It's consciousness, really, cultural consciousness. There are blessings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this connection, and if we try sincerely, it will be successful. It's not because I'm here, therefore. It's wholly and solely the blessings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We'll move on, and I'm going to go back in history a little bit, and I hope we have a little time to cover some of this at least. You may remember that Srila Prabhupada received instructions from his spiritual master on several occasions to preach the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world in English, and consequently other languages, obviously. But from his point of view, it was in English primarily. Later in India in his own tongue, etc. But in English, and that's what Prabhupada made his life and soul. To how to go to the Western world and preach Krishna consciousness in America, initially. Markine Bhagavat Dharma. We don't have time to sing that. Maybe you can sing that tonight. Or we can sing it tonight, whatever you wish. Together we can all sing. To me, we talk of the Incorporation document, the Constitution of ISKCON, and so on, but as far as my heart goes, that Markine Bhagavat Dharma is the Constitution of ISKCON. It's not a matter of do's and don'ts, rules and regulations, laws according to the world we're in. It's all depending on our heart, our consciousness. Everything else is simply external. And it will not evoke the internal purpose if it remains an external implementation. It must be wholly and solely in line with the actual essential purpose behind it. Not just that will work. It is not a mechanical process. It's not a business arrangement. It's not an expert organized system. All good, that should be there. But that's not the actual life of the Krishna conscious movement. Numbers, buildings, getting away with things, rules, playing a big good game, whatever it is. That's not what it's all about. And Srila Prabhupada, in that Markine Bhagavat Dharma, you can see the heart, the relationship, the spirit of this movement in that poem. The first thing Prabhupada wrote, maybe a letter or two, but the first document he wrote in his arrival in Boston in 1965, on September the 18th, he wrote Markine Bhagavat Dharma in Bengali, consequently translated. It can be a daily meditation. At least the spirit should be a daily reminder. But we're not going there today. We're going back a little further than that. Back to the 1950s, after Srila Prabhupada received clear directions from his spiritual master, he was always meditating how to fulfill that instruction. A great task, especially as the mission of the Gaudiya Math became fragmented after Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj's departure, if you want to call it that. And there wasn't really a missionary spirit anymore. And Srila Prabhupada was not aligned with any particular branch or part of that, whatever, different groups of followers. And he was basically alone in many ways. So he tried to form an organization in 1953. Who knows what that's called? The League of Devotees. Famous picture again. And it says on the wall, this is the Radha Bhavan in Jhansi. Some of you have been there. I went there a few years, well, many years ago. Lokanath Maharaj, maybe 20 years ago we were there. And what are they using it for? Women's Upliftment Society. And I talked to the secretary, who happened to be the daughter of Dr. Shastri, who Prabhupada was staying with when he was there. And she's running it. She's not running it, she's the secretary. And what is there? Women's Upliftment, to teach ladies family planning. How to enjoy without having a child, basically. That's what the idea of upliftment of society. Anyway, that's another story. So the League of Devotees, registered office, it says, and Prabhupada compiled a whole document. And it's almost exactly that document which forms the foundation of what we now know as the Incorporation document of ISKCON, which is basically a reduced version of Prabhupada's document, the League of Devotees, their constitution of the League of Devotees. And Prabhupada signs it here, 16th of May, 1953, dated Jhansi, the day of Akshaya Tritiya. It's interesting because you generally start new things on that day. It's very auspicious. So Prabhupada, maybe he chose that day to purposely for that reason. And it didn't happen in terms of there and then, but you can see it did happen. It manifested in the form it was meant to later on. Abhay Charanaravindo, Bhaktivedanta, founder and secretary. At that time he had no initiated disciples, he had no followers. Some interested people in Jhansi only. He was basically alone. A lone ranger, we were to use one or two American terms here. The Lone Ranger, okay? You remember those days, I'm sure, when we were kids. We also used to watch that regularly on television. The Lone Ranger, was it? Oh, the Lone Ranger. Very important program. I just read one or two things. We haven't got time to cover all. The purpose, Prabhupada writes, this is the beginning of his document. It's quite a long document, actually. It's maybe 12, 13 pages long. The purpose of establishing an association like the League of Devotees on the wish of Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa 108 Sri Srimat Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. Phew, I had to take a breath in the middle of that. And Thakur Bhakti Vinod of Navadvip, West Bengal, is keenly felt a necessary enterprise on the face of the present world situation, with special reference to the degraded and distressed condition of human beings. Introduction. Well, that's going back to 1953. That's 70 years or more ago. And most of you were not in your bodies then. We were in our bodies then. You just appeared, I think, Gopaswami, in his little baby body then. At the time. Most of you were, some of you may have been, Garangi was in her body then of some sort or another, somewhere or another. And a few of you may have been also. But we knew nothing of all of this. Totally in ignorance. And of course we were babies or kids or whatever. And the whole world was in ignorance. Still is, basically. But look at the world situation now compared to 1953. It's almost unimaginable. We look back to Advaita Acharya's prayers to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We need, please. The world is so sinful. I cannot do anything. I am also a sinner. It's not within my power to change things. Only if you, my Lord, appear in this world will it be possible. Well, what to speak of now? It's inconceivable almost, isn't it? We don't go there, but you know what's going on. This comes up, by the way. There's 3 points here. I thought they were fascinating. It's not to do with today's direct topic. But these are part of the constitution which he had. And they also came up when Prabhupada presented his document to the lawyer in 1966. These were included. They weren't included in the incorporation document. Many things were not included. That was just a summary. I put a few of them into one, and some of them were, because of legal reasons, were not included. They didn't have any legal standing. But they were Prabhupada's intentions to undertake civic enterprises which do not come in conflict with the ideals and missions of the League, with all the principles in view. That's a pretty broad point. I mean, you can include there, all kinds of things, basically. Even you could say our hospital in Bombay, for instance, the Bhaktivedanta Hospital. Is it conflicting? No, it's not conflicting. It's not our direct business. We're not here to open hospitals, but it facilitates. It's not in conflict. Sometimes people criticize even Food for Life. It's not in conflict. It depends on our consciousness, of course, but it's not in of itself in conflict. Everything's in conflict if our consciousness is wrong. If we're thinking of ourselves, it's wrong. You may be doing an activity, okay, it's some piety, but it's not the real point. It's not the purpose. Here's an interesting one. And of course, maybe this does go on. To open free mail services, free, to advise by post in respect of inquiries made to the League on spiritual subjects. Prabhupada even said there is a fee for joining the League of Devotees, but he said if you have nothing, that doesn't matter. You're still entitled to everything. It wasn't enforced. Literatures were sent free if the people had no money. That was Prabhupada's mood. But he said, if you do have money, you better give it. Don't hold back. Because otherwise, you're not going to make any advancement. Sincerity of purpose is the secret. Another one, to evoke the quality of goodness. In fact, in the document, I think is a typo. It said revoke. Revoke means to remove, but the actual meaning is evoke. To evoke the quality of goodness, particularly sattva gun, in every member of the League. Now that's something to meditate on, isn't it? Individually, by the process of spiritual initiation, diksha, by establishing him in the status of a qualified Brahmin. And Prabhupada emphasized this in ISKCON, and it's understood that the vast majority of human beings will not necessarily be in that particular situation. But there needs to be a Brahminical head in society which has to guide society. And society, of course, doesn't listen. But so other aspects are also important to establish that as a functional situation, not just an employed one, employed by other persons to do what they want. No, they have to give that guide, but unless they're in sattva gun, they cannot do it. They're also, like everyone else, passionate and ignorant and running around with their own agendas. Brahmin means their agenda is to fulfill Krishna's agenda, not their own. On the basis of truthfulness, forgiveness, equality, spiritual equality, and equality materially means seeing how everyone plays their part. This is the unity. It's not everyone becomes one. It's that everyone has their own God-given natures, gifts from karma, whatever, and how that can all work harmoniously. Not this competitive idea, tear this one down, put this one up. Tolerance, This is the Brahmins. Huh? Education, purity, knowledge, from Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, basically. Specific, and Prabhupada says specific and general. So they also have knowledge, maybe not all knowledge, but they have specific knowledge of certain material subjects too. They're not just living in cloud, what's it? 9. Which some of us may be sometimes. People certainly see us like that, right? Out of touch with the world around. Huh? Many times. Yeah. I mean, we could go on even without going into the big version. This is not going to, we're not going to get very far here, are we? It's already 8:45. It's difficult, you know. I'm glad someone's happy. But, you know, we do have a time frame, and anyway, no problem. You can carry on tomorrow with the same subject matter, but I won't be here. We have to get back to Paris. We've come down to get more, I'll use a term which may not be misinterpreted, more books for the Sankirtan in Paris, and a few other things, talking to a few devotees. Get back out there with the devotees in Paris on Sankirtan, and little effort to distribute books. By the way, we made an arrangement to have a mini marathon this next 2 or 3 weeks because of the World Olympics in Paris. You may be aware, you may not be aware, the World Olympics are taking place in Paris right now. They got off to a start, which is rather questionable, but anyway, whatever. And it rained all that evening too. It was raining non-stop in Paris that evening. But aside from that, we try to do, but we are, and for good reasons, we can understand their intentions from the material point of view. But Paris is patrolled by about 55,000 policemen right now. Every corner of the street, practically, there are 6 to 8 policemen standing there in a city. There are 10,000 armed soldiers with machine guns walking through the city all day long. Probably night as well. I haven't been out to see. But you know, not 5 minutes goes by without, you know, a big group of policemen passing by, wherever you are. And it's a complete no-go zone for Harinam and solicitation of any kind, unless it's authorized by the Olympic Committee or whatever. So it doesn't give us much scope in the city center for what we normally do. All of our main Sankirtan spots are out of bounds. So we're just scraping around the outside of the city, trying to do what we can. But the spirit is still there. There are less tourists than normal because prices have risen, and many places are closed because of the Olympics. So what is there for tourists? They can't go to the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre. They can't go to the River Seine unless they're going for the Olympics. It's not much to do. So there's less tourists than normal. Local people have gone on holiday. Or they were told to stay in their house and don't come out. That was an official statement. Anyway, it's still people, you know, luckily we're in France. People, they do what they inspired to do. Yeah.
It's worse than the pandemic.
Well, it's not quite like the pandemic. France is a wonderful place like that people are very enthusiastic, not necessarily to follow all the recommendations, put it like that. So there's still people around, and is ecstatic. That's all I can say. It's blissful going out every day on Harinam Sankirtan and trying to distribute a few books here and there. And the devotees are distributing now they call them stacks. Stacks, packets of 8 books, French books. Krishna book, Sri Chaitanya, the first canto of Bhagavatam, part 2. They don't know. Bhagavad higher taste, good superior, and la vie, beyond la vie. Life comes from life. 7 books. Saptarishi it's called, Saptarishi stack. They're trying to distribute them, 50 euros. Even you're back to Christopher. He's now one of the fired up Sankirtan men in Paris. He did a stack of these books in La République. La République's open. You know, La République is open all the time. You know, you can do anything practically in La République. They give one place in Paris where just about anything goes. You know. So we go there quite often. And not many people there, but still, it was pouring with rain, not pouring, but raining all day long. He did nothing. And then one man came up from Lithuania and stopped. He didn't speak French, he spoke English. He didn't speak a word of French. And Chris said to him, I've been here all day, no one's bought a single book, not a penny. Please, can you help me? He said, can you take these books? They're in French, you know. I said, I don't speak a word of French. He said, give them to your hotel, receptionist or something. Just give them away as a gift to someone. Please, can you help me? I said, okay then. He opened his wallet and just gave him 50 euros on the spot. Took the books and walked off. There was this bum. You know what a bum is? You know, in America we call them bums. Huh? Yeah, what do you call them here? I don't know. These guys who hang out on the street, you know, they kind of come up to you and ask for your money, try to steal it. We have a donation box. They tried to steal the donation box and things like this. This guy came up, a bit of a trouble guy, you know, about 30 minutes before this. And Rasananda quickly came over and said, hey, we've got this stack of books. Just give a donation. Come on, you look like a rich man. The guy looked, he was a bit grumpy, you know. Kind of walked away, you know. And then about 30 minutes after Chris sold that set, the man came walking by holding the Saptarishi set in his hand, looking at us. This Lithuanian man had obviously left it somewhere, and this guy picked it up and walked off the other way with it. You know, it was so funny. You know, we were all laughing like anything. How Krishna arranges things. It's a miracle. I mean, you know, this is all Prabhupada's, miracle. You know, this is the incorporation of ISKCON. You know, it's a living thing. It's not just a document. It's a living example. It's a reality. It's not just a document that Prabhupada wrote. It's actually happening. We're going to move on. We're going to have to jump over these. We haven't got time. But in that document, we'll just say something. That, you know, today's 2 points are basically the same as the 2 in yellow here. To bring together, this is from the League of Devotees document, to bring together members individually, because Prabhupada's English was a little, Indian English, to bring together members individually to one another and nearer to Godhead, who is the prime entity, and the individual souls are infinitesimal entities, and humanity at large, that individual souls are being part and parcels in quality of Godhead, the absolute whole. They, the individual souls, are meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Soul Godhead as it is revealed in the Scriptures, if you can make that out. It's all kind of like, Indian English type of thing in those days. Later on, of course, you'll see the document is clearly worded, but it's basically exactly that same thing. And the other one, I won't mention the green one, which is related. The other yellow one, to prepare the groundwork of spiritual atmosphere for the people in general by Sankirtan movement, as it is recommended in the Scriptures and as propounded by the father of the Sankirtan movement, Lord Chaitanya. Nicely worded. The interesting word here, foundation. Prepare groundwork, foundation. Groundwork, not foundation. Groundwork. And we see that, isn't it? The Harinam Sankirtan, how it prepares the groundwork. It may take a lot of hearing before it suddenly clicks. But everyone who hears the Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name, their lives are never the same again. You don't notice it much in the beginning, but it gradually builds up, imperceptible change of heart takes place. Because that's a never-ending process. It doesn't stop there. It just ever increases. This Sankirtan movement is ever increasing, and it is eternal. It is not a means to an end. It is the end in of itself. It is the everything is there in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. The chanting of the holy name, everything is there. We'll move on. I do want to mention this because it's not very often mentioned. This is from a diary. Srila Prabhupada kept 2 diaries, which are now called the Jaladuta diary, is the first one, which is quite famous. And unfortunately, when Satsvarup Maharaj compiled the Prabhupada Lilamrita, the other diary was not available. Prabhupada kept a diary when he was after he arrived in New York. He kept a diary which is now just titled The Beginning. Prabhupada didn't give that title, but that's what it's called, The Beginning. It became one of Prabhupada's disciples, we will not mention the name, had been keeping this diary without the knowledge of anyone else for decades. Eventually he made it available. I know, anyway, it's a long story because I interviewed him once. So anyway, this came available. So much of this, you don't find it in the Lilamrita. In fact, many of the things in the Lilamrita are not actually what happened in that period of time. Not exactly, anyway. So we just mentioned the relevant ones here. So I thought this was a little relevant because it refers to the second point of today's subject matter. This is February the 3rd, 1966. At that time, Prabhupada was basically staying alone in an apartment near Dr. Mishra's yoga studio there. Today there was a very nice demonstration of tape record Sankirtan by me, Prabhupada wrote. This is Prabhupada's words. He got a reel-to-reel tape recorder or something and recorded his singing. And he played it to a small group of people in his room. It is all grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Haridas Thakur said that the transcendental sound of Harinam would even purify the heart of birds and beasts. Today, this statement of Thakur Haridas is corroborated. These Americans cannot understand even a word's meaning of the Sankirtan. Just see these Americans. Are there any Americans here today? Any Americans? Hands up if you're American. Nobody. Okay. You're Americans? You don't look American. Even in California. Also, but you were the blessed ones. You may not have understood that, but nobody else on the planet even knew about it. What to speak of understand it? Right? We didn't know anything about it over here. 1966. All we knew, well, I won't get into what we knew about in those days, but we didn't know anything about Lord Chaitanya or the holy name. Still, Prabhupada said, they don't understand a word's meaning of the Sankirtan, yet they were so much attracted. It is all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's power. There is no credit for me. Nice one, huh? Then on February the 23rd, 1966, Prabhupada writes, ladies and gentlemen, Prabhupada declaring, a small group of people in the room, I beg to inform you that the classes which I am holding now may be called the initiation classes for developing the International Institution for God Consciousness. You don't get that one. Prabhupada initially had that title. He changed it later. 25th of May, and Prabhupada changed it. After the meeting, there was consultation. This is all written in his diary, by the way, word by word. There was consultations about incorporation of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This is the first record in the diary of the incorporation of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. 25th of May, 66. 6th of July, now we're bumping forward to dates and topics we're familiar with more. In the meeting at 26 2nd Avenue store, because Prabhupada moved by this time into 2nd Avenue, he just moved in. It is settled that the society shall be incorporated, and the name of the society shall be International Society for Krishna Consciousness. 11 trustees were agreed. So that's the document agreed upon, which was then submitted to the lawyer for final, whatever, proof. So let's see, this is the document that Prabhupada compiled, which went to the lawyer. And in this document, there are many things, which are, not many, a few, which are not in the final incorporation document. But the first ones are the same, reworded to be more American English. So you can see there number 3, and it's the same that we have number 3, to bring together individuals in a society, regardless of nationality and irrespective of creed or caste, in order to develop a nearness to the Godhead, and thereby the idea that within the members and humanity at large there is an infinitesimal soul, spirit, that is part and parcel in quality with the Godhead, and that all life is meant for the satisfaction of said Godhead, the Supreme Soul. It's almost the same as the one which he put in the League of Devotees, and again, with the English being rephrased, the same as the one in the incorporation document. And the fourth one, which is similar again, to encourage the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who demonstrated practically the transcendental process of approaching the absolute personality of Godhead by his acts of congregational chanting of the holy name, a process known as Sankirtan. And some other interesting ones which Prabhupada put there, which aren't mentioned. He writes, to have for its objective amongst the other 4 principles which the Goswamis had in view, they are the following. And these are the things which the Goswamis wanted. But Prabhupada had written this in there, so you can read it. I'm not going to read that one. And he wrote, to introduce to the members of society and humanity at large, we've got that one, to organize, to publish, to invoke the quality of goodness, which we found in the previous League of Devotees. Among the secondary objectives, Prabhupada writes, to revive the scientific system of social orders of classification based on intelligence, martial spirit, productivity, and common assistance, generally known as the 4 castes, with reference to quality and worth for the common man, the common cause of world society. Another one he wrote, to discharge as a matter of course the vitiated system of supremacy of one man over another by false prestige of birthright or vested interests. 3, to popularize the vegetable grain diet under approved methods in order that full value of protein, carbohydrate, fat, and vitamin benefit may be derived therefrom. That's pretty far out, isn't it? We don't generally think that as a purpose of ISKCON. Prabhupada wrote it there in his constitution document as a secondary purpose, not a primary one. But it has its part to play. Now, you may have noticed or may be aware that when Prabhupada started, particularly in the Bowery, before he moved to 2nd Avenue, he started with Sanskrit classes. Did you know that? He was thinking, this is the way to bring people in. Now, that's not surprising. Now, I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know what's going to happen. You're going to get all kinds of pictures? No. Good, it's still the same. I'm just going to read something briefly, if I can find it. It's interesting to know also the word, I looked up this morning the word of incorporation. Unification, uniting, union, consolidate, unity. These are the meanings of that word. It's a very relevant word, incorporate, to bring everyone together. That's the mission of this movement, everybody. It's not another movement to try to compete with another movement. This is the movement of absolute unification. So let's see if we can find it. In Prabhupada's League of Devotees, whatever you call it, constitution, Prabhupada writes, I don't know where I can find it now. If I can't find it, I'll just mention it. Here it is. Go back one paragraph. Here. In conclusion, it may be said that the aims and objectives of the institution, the League of Devotees, are not man-made ideologies, but they are picked up from the original treasure house of India's spiritual culture, attained by the great rishis and acharyas who transcended the conditional stage of existence. And such spiritual experience is recorded in Sanskrit language. As such, it is now necessary that men of culture all over the world may learn and read Sanskrit language, the mother of all other languages of the Aryan stock. The League of Devotees, therefore, will maintain a Sanskrit academy and a degree college, specially for the purpose of disseminating the benefit of this great language to all. Scholars from all countries will be welcome to remain as inmate of the institution if they agree to abide by the rules and regulations of the institution. There is scope for admitting free students, also by special arrangement. After political independence of India, the state language should have been Sanskrit, but it has not been so. Formerly, though, Sanskrit language was not known to the general mass of people in India. Still, the written language of India was Sanskrit. As a result of this, there was a strong sense of cultural unity of the ruling classes, that is, the Brahmin and Kshatriya, who were followed by the Vaishyas and Shudras. The spoken language of India was, as usual, always different over district after district, but due to the cultural unity of the people through the written Sanskrit language, there was no question of provincial or other narrow rivalries. If Sanskrit language is therefore made again the written language of India, the cultural language of India will not only be more strengthened than ever, but also it will be participated by the enlightened people of the world. The League of Devotees aims at this perfection for its objective of spiritual and cultural advancement. So you can see a little bit why Prabhupada also thought to introduce Sanskrit in his initial preaching program. He could see that the world wasn't quite ready for it, perhaps. At least those who were coming were not. And other priorities obviously were there. But as an important part of the foundation, you could say, Prabhupada had this in mind. And it's a fact. I remember one time we were on Harinam in Sydney, in some back streets. It wasn't on the main streets. There was one private school there, and as we were passing by, it's a boys' school, all the boys came out, and they were watching, and then they suddenly started chanting Sanskrit mantras. They were all Australian kids, not one Indian amongst them. They started reciting verses from maybe Bhagavad Gita, I don't know, but some Sanskrit verses they were quoting. We all stopped, we were shocked. There's these young Australian kids all chanting Sanskrit. So we inquired from the teachers, and they said, yes, this is a special school. Most of the parents are very rich. And they specifically requested that Sanskrit should be taught in this school. Because they said that they know that Sanskrit language will evoke the mode of, they don't use the word goodness, but will bring good qualities, good culture to the kids. They said that. They were convinced that they were kind of like New Age, kind of like, sort of a little bit a little bit aware of the Mayavad, whatever, but they were aware of the, India and philosophy. Maybe they were themselves ex-hippies or something, I don't know, but they were all rich. It was a very expensive school. And they would not let their children watch television either, by the way. They said, we don't let our children watch television. They were quite strict. But they would have Sanskrit class every day. learning verses. That alone purifies your consciousness. They didn't use those words, but that's what they meant. Quite interesting, I thought. And Prabhupada had this in mind, no doubt about it. We're a long way off there, aren't we? But he had that in mind. We think it's an artificial imposition or something, but it's not. Because the purpose of human life, the foundation purpose, is to raise society up. You can't just put them on top level. There's a system to raise people up. They'll fall down if you stick them up there. And that's what's happening in our movement. Prabhupada said that himself. They're not ready. You need this system in order to help people to gradually rise up. His own words. I know, I'll just mention it briefly, but anyone, I'm not recommending, but I won't mention what the name is, but I read some writings of a devotee named Indra Prabhu recently, for the second time. And anyone who knows Indra Prabhu is not a big proponent of anything to do with Varna Ashram, generally speaking. That's what comes over anyway. It's Harinam Sankirtan, morning, noon, and night. As the only yogya. He is like, manifestation of Yuga Dharma almost, you could say like that. But in this writing, he's recognizing, and he writes it as his own words, that how important it is for, I'm not saying those are his own words, but that's what the gist of it is, summarizing, that for most people it is important that there is a structure of Varnashram in our movement. Is required. Whatever form it takes is another thing. We're not going to, who is there to institute that? But to understand the principle of understanding where we are at, where I'm at, where you're at, where everyone's at, and acting accordingly and not trying to imitate others or putting people down because they're not on a certain level of, absorption or whatever it is. But to try to arrange and facilitate that everyone can be a part of this movement somehow or another wherever they are. And it's an important part of Lord Chaitanya's movement. It's very important that devotees go out in the potato fields and pick up the potatoes. It's not just the job of one or two people. It's what most people should be doing. They should be picking the weeds, and they should be picking potatoes. That will make you happy if that's your nature. Trying to be something you're not, you'll never be happy, neither will we progress in spiritual life. Accepting where we're at and acting accordingly is just common sense. It's not some, dogmatic, out-of-date philosophy. It's just plain common sense. And that's Prabhupada's mood, and that's what he mentioned here, to establish this system, to facilitate a house for the whole world to live in. This is not the International Society for Brahmin Consciousness, or temple consciousness. It's not. It's for everyone, no matter where they are, even if they're down. Prabhupada even wrote in that document, in League of Devotees, that our business is not to dismantle people's sense gratification exactly, but it's to add Krishna consciousness to it. To add Krishna consciousness. People can't give. They're not ready. Some may. But to bring Krishna consciousness, gradually uplift, to try to create an atmosphere where people can knowingly or unknowingly advance towards the ultimate Godhead. Bring them together. And everyone's different, Bring it together, but with Krishna in the center. Not try to make everyone a robot. Are you a robot? They ask you that question regularly now, don't they? Are you a robot? I think they want to convince you are. Eventually you'll say, yes. No. Yes, I'm a robot. Good! We succeeded. We succeeded. We're not robots. And this movement is not to create robots. Unity in diversity, The diversity part. But we want the unity part as well. And, that's Prabhupada's cultural. The culture is to bring the unity. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. We didn't talk on our classic subject of Nam Sankirtan very much, but you'll be living it if you come along this evening at 5:30. You can. This is a realized subject. You can theorize till the cows come home, so they say in England. You can talk about it, but you've got to realize it. And if you don't come, you won't get that. It's come by coming together with devotees and chanting together. This is the Sankirtan. Is that right, Badahari Prabhu? You must have a little experience of it. You'll be here tonight? Oh, good. Badahari Prabhu is going to come, so please everyone else come as well. If you're free and able, please come. So is it confirmed yet? Have I convinced you or not? One thumb went up. What time? What place?
Yes, I was suggesting 5 o'clock tonight.
Okay, we're going forward. What about 9:30 this morning? Kirtan all day. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Up till Mangalarti tomorrow morning, okay? If only. So now our representative of the temple management, here's our co-president is here. Namacharya just came in from milking the cows. Who's behind you? Is that your assistant? I can't see. Maybe he can become your assistant. So he's the co-president of the temple here. So is that okay? 5 o'clock this evening?
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay, it's wonderful. Okay. It's now confirmed by 2 of the 3. So even if the other one disagrees, they're outvoted. So. Where? So that's the next question. Where? Right here in the temple room. Right here. 5 o'clock has come forward half an hour. Is that okay? You have to make the final decision. It's not resting entirely on you, but it's related to your... 5 o'clock onwards. Please inform those souls who are not here. How many people live in France? 70 million almost, isn't it? Please inform them all that they're all welcome to come here this evening at 5 o'clock. This will solve all the problems and bring unity in whatever. What is it? Unity, equality, and fraternity. So this is at least the unity factor, which is the most difficult one of all, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't that the most hard thing? Unity? Not easy. Community. Unity. That's what it means. It's meant to be unity. It's not meant to be you do your thing. Well, yes, you do your thing and I do my thing, you could say, but united, harmoniously together. Not competitively or discriminatively or angrily or whatever, but working together to help each other. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Bol.